The Sony Walkman is a tiny stereo cassette player.
LaserDisc images 60% sharper than most VCRs.
But Jenny, hold up. Look, I brought a disc and we could copy this.
Curious which everyday activities from the 1980s are now lost to time? Let's have a look at 20 things from the 1980s we can no longer do. They've largely faded away, but it's time to rewind the VHS tapes.
Renting video shouldn't be a game of skill or luck, and it's not at Home Video Express.
Renting VHS tapes at video stores. Remember the excitement of going to the local video store? It was a weekend ritual for many families. You'd walk in greeted by rows of VHS tapes, each with colorful covers that promised a great movie night. The joy of browsing the aisles, picking up potential choices, and finally settling for the perfect film was unmatched. The anticipation built as you rushed home, popped the tape into the VCR, and settled in for a cozy evening. This experience was more than just renting a movie. It was all about the thrill of the hunt and shared moments with family and friends. The video store was a community hub, a place where you may bump into neighbors and discuss the latest releases. And those simple trips to rent a VHS tape created long-lasting memories. Speaking of storage, remember how we used to save our files?
Anti-static flex shutter. Reliability and durability are guaranteed.
Using floppy disks for storage. Floppy disks were once the primary means of data storage and transfer. These small and plastic squares were essential for saving documents, pictures, and programs, and the most common size was the 3.5-inch floppy. Each disk had limited storage, usually just enough for a few files, and upgrading to a high-density 1.44 megabyte disk was a big deal back then. Every computer had a floppy disk drive, and using them required careful handling. You had to slide the metal shutter and insert the disk into the drive, and then wait for that familiar whirring sound as the computer read your data. It was a slow process, but felt revolutionary at the time. Floppy disks were a significant part of early computing, serving as a bridge to modern storage solutions. And today, they're a nostalgic reminder of how far we've come in technology.
His cell phone off, a SkyTel operator converts the caller's message to text and sends it right to his pager.
Using pagers. Before mobile phones became widespread, pagers were the go-to for urgent communication. These small devices were simple and effective, allowing people to send short messages to one another. When a pager beeped, it meant you had to find a phone and call the sender back as soon as possible. The simplicity of pagers was their strength. The short beep and numeric message were enough to convey urgency, and they were widely used by doctors, emergency workers, and anyone who needed to be reachable at all times. Rushing to the nearest payphone to return a page would be a common scene in the 1980s. Pagers represented a critical step in the evolution of communication, providing a lifeline in urgent situations. Though they're now obsolete, their impact on how we stay connected is undeniable. Communication wasn't the only thing that's changed. How about developing photos? Developing film at Photomats. In the 1980s, developing film at a photomat was a common experience. These tiny and iconic kiosks were often found in parking lots, making it convenient to drop off your rolls of film. The process was simple. You hand over your film, get a receipt, and wait a few days for your photos to be developed. The anticipation of seeing how your pictures turned out was a part of the thrill. Would they capture the moments just as you remembered? Picking up the developed photos was always an exciting event. You'd flip through the prints right then and there, reliving the memories while sharing them with friends and family. Photomats played a significant role in preserving memories. They were more than just kiosks. They were gateways to moments that are frozen in time and cherished by many.
Sony introduces the only cassette player as small as a cassette case.
Playing music on Walkmans. In the 1980s, the Sony Walkman revolutionized how we listen to music. It offered freedom and portability that was unprecedented for the time, and you could take your favorite tunes everywhere, whether it be a jog in the park or a ride on the bus. Creating mixtapes became a beloved activity. You'd spend hours picking out the perfect songs, recording them onto a cassette, and then swapping the tapes with friends. Each mixtape was a personalized journey, a way to share your musical tastes with others. and putting on the lightweight headphones and pressing play would transport you to a different world. It became an escape, a personal concert right there in your ears, making long commutes and everyday activities that much more enjoyable. While listening to music has evolved, what about our in-flight habits?
So far, the only definite order will require the airlines to set up a third passenger section. No longer will smoking and non-smoking sections be enough.
Smoking in airplanes. In the 1980s, smoking on an airplane would be a common sight. Flights had designated smoking sections, and passengers could light up mid-air. The smell of smoke often filled the cabin, drifting from the smoking area to the non-smoking seats, and it was an accepted part of flying, though it did make the air inside the plane less pleasant for everyone. Over time, growing awareness of the risks associated with secondhand smoke would lead to changes in regulations. Gradually, airlines began banning smoking on domestic flights, followed by international routes. By the late 1990s, smoking on commercial flights was almost entirely prohibited, improving the air quality and comfort for all passengers. These changes in health regulations reflected a more broad shift towards protecting public health, and today, the idea of smoking on an airplane seems almost unimaginable, a stark contrast to the norms of the 1980s. But there's one more thing from the 80s that truly transformed our daily routines. Stay with us until the end to find out.
The Pioneer combination CD LaserDisc player with a 60% sharper picture than most VCRs.
Watching LaserDisc movies. LaserDiscs were the cutting-edge technology for home movies before DVDs took over. These large discs offered superior video and audio quality compared to VHS tapes, making them a prized possession for movie enthusiasts. Watching a film on LaserDisc felt like a special event due to the enhanced clarity and sound. However, LaserDiscs were quite large, and a full-length movie often required multiple discs. This meant having to swap out discs during movie marathons, adding a bit of an intermission to your viewing experience. Despite this inconvenience, the novelty and high quality of LaserDiscs made them a sought-after format for collectors and cinephiles. LaserDiscs paved the way for the DVDs that would be soon to follow, setting a new standard for home entertainment. And their impact on how we consume movies would be significant, even if their reign was relatively short-lived. Movies weren't the only things we made ourselves. Remember mixtapes?
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art. Many do's and don'ts.
Making mixtapes. Creating mixtapes was a beloved hobby in the 1980s. The art involved carefully selecting and recording songs onto a cassette tape and crafting a personalized music collection. People spent hours recording songs from the radio, perfectly timing them to avoid the DJ's voice and arranging the tracks in just the right order. Mixtapes were more than just collections of songs. They were expressions of emotion, moods, and messages. And giving a mixtape to someone would be a heartfelt gesture. Whether it was for a friend, a crush, or a family member, each tape had a unique and sentimental value, reflecting the effort and thought put into its creation. The joy of listening to a mixtape, knowing that it was made just for you, was a truly special thing, and it captured moments and feelings in a way that digital playlists will never be able to replicate.
42% of people 16 years or older use a pay telephone at least once a month. Those are the figures.
Using payphones. In the 1980s, payphones were a common sight on street corners and in public places, essential for making calls away from home. People often carried change specifically to use payphones, with quarters and dimes ready for that all-important call. Finding a payphone in an emergency provided a sense of relief, whether it was to call a friend for a ride, contact family, or even report a problem. Payphones were a lifeline. They were reliable and could be found in almost any location, making it easy to stay connected even when away from home. Payphones played a crucial role in daily communication before the age of mobile phones, ensuring that help or a friendly voice was never too far away. They're a nostalgic reminder of how we used to stay in touch. Our toys have changed a lot. Remember He-Man and She-Ra?
The Master of Disaster, Hurricane Hordak, new from the Masters of the Universe.
Playing with He-Man and She-Ra action figures. In the 1980s, He-Man and She-Ra action figures were the crown jewels of many toy collections. Children everywhere would spend hours creating epic battles and grand adventures with these iconic characters. Whether it was He-Man fighting Skeletor or She-Ra saving the day, these toys fueled imagination and storytelling. The excitement of playing with He-Man and She-Ra was not only about the toys themselves, but a vast and magical world that they represented. Each action figure brought to life a piece of the vibrant and fantastical universe of Eternia and Etheria, making playtime an epic saga every day. Over time, these toys became beloved collectibles. Adults who grew up with He-Man and She-Ra now treasure these figures as nostalgic symbols of their childhood, and they hold a special place in the hearts of many, reminding us all of more simple and imaginative times. But toys weren't the only thing that was different back then. Watching MTV for music videos. In the 1980s, MTV was the ultimate destination for music lovers, a hub where the latest music videos premiered, introducing audiences to new artists and hits. The launch of MTV brought iconic videos that defined the decade, from Michael Jackson's Thriller to Madonna's Like a Virgin. Music fans spent hours glued to their televisions, waiting to catch their favorite videos. And MTV wasn't only about the music. It became a cultural phenomenon that shaped fashion, trends, and attitudes. The vivid imagery and creative storytelling of the videos made them an essential part of the music experience. MTV provided a visual and audio treat, making music a multi-sensory adventure. And it played a significant role in the careers of many artists, cementing their status as pop culture icons. We've got one last blast from the past that you don't want to miss. Stick around until the end to see what it is.
Quix, the intelligent typewriter.
Plays back from memory at 300 words a minute.
Using typewriters. In the 1980s, the rhythmic clickety-clack of an electric typewriter was a familiar sound in both the home and the office. Each press of the keys brought the satisfying sight of words to appear on the paper, a tangible result of all of your efforts. The distinct feeling of typing on a typewriter is something that many fondly remember. Using a typewriter required care and precision. Mistakes meant that reaching for correction tape or whiteout to fix typos, and there was no backspace or delete to save the day. Typing a perfect page was a skill that took both practice and patience. Despite the challenges, there was a certain charm to using a typewriter. It made writing feel more deliberate and permanent, with each word hammered into place by your very own hands.
Town so big you can pinpoint the flowers in your front garden, 3 bus lengths to the inch.
Taking road trips with paper maps. In the 1980s, road trips often meant navigating with large paper maps. Unfolding these maps to plot a course and then trying to refold them would be a challenge on its own, yet it was part of the adventure. Using a paper map required skill and patience. It was a fun and sometimes tricky task to trace the route while identifying landmarks, and families often bonded over map reading, with parents teaching children how to find their way and making collective decisions about which route to take. This hands-on navigation created a sense of accomplishment when you reached your destination, and it also led to unexpected detours and discoveries, making the journey itself an integral part of the experience. Mapping out routes isn't the only skill from back then. How about programming?
Changing computers, making them as familiar as yesterday's alphabet.
Programming in BASIC on home computers. In the 1980s, home computers like the Commodore 64 introduced many to the world of programming with BASIC. The beginner's language was a gateway to creating simple programs and games, and writing code line by line and seeing it come to life on the screen was a thrilling experience. For many, programming in BASIC was their first taste of computer science. The sense of accomplishment from making a computer perform tasks that you designed was immense. Whether it be a basic calculator or a simple game, every successful program was a victory. These early experiences laid the foundation for lifelong interest in technology and coding, and BASIC made programming accessible and fun, sparking creativity and problem-solving skills.
What you've actually done is bought a one-way ticket to the answering machine zone.
Using cassette answering machines. In the 1980s, cassette-based answering machines were a common household item. These machines recorded missed calls on small cassette tapes, and hearing the familiar beep and leaving a message would be a routine part of daily life. Listening to messages required rewinding and fast-forwarding the tape to find the right spot. It was a bit of a chore, but also a way to catch up on missed conversation. Each message was a tiny slice of life captured on magnetic tape, and these answering machines provided a crucial link to the outside world. They would ensure you'd never missed an important call, even when you were out. The tapes became little archives of personal history, preserving voices and moments in time. Speaking of school days, remember Filmstrips?
Teresa? A brain? Yes. Owls look wise.
Watching educational film strips in class. In the 1980s, educational film strips were a staple in classrooms. The visual aids provided a break from traditional teaching methods and offered a dynamic way to learn. The anticipation of dimming the lights and watching a film strip added excitement to the school day. They were simple yet effective and presented information in a visual format that was easy to understand and remember. Teachers would play the film strip while narrating or even discussing the content, making the lessons more engaging. These visual learning aids help students to grasp complex concepts while retaining information much better. And the combination of images and spoken words made learning more interactive and fun. Film strips were an essential part of education, bridging the gap between textbooks and modern multimedia tools. And there's one more iconic 80s activity that had everyone moving and grooving coming up at the end.
Any attempt to restrict drinking and driving here is viewed by some as downright undemocratic.
Driving without seatbelt laws. In the 1980s, many places did not have the mandatory seatbelt laws. It would be common to see drivers and passengers without them because the risks were not fully realized. Cars were designed without the emphasis on seatbelt safety that we see today, and gradually, awareness of the importance of seatbelts would grow. Studies showed that wearing seatbelts significantly reduced injury and fatalities in accidents, which would lead to the gradual implementation of seatbelt regulations, starting with front seat occupants and eventually extending to all passengers. Public safety campaigns played a crucial role in changing attitudes towards seatbelt use, and over time, wearing a seatbelt became a standard practice, deeply ingrained in our daily routines. These changes marked a significant shift in public safety awareness, saving countless lives in the end. From driving to finding contacts, remember the phone book?
Way back when, the pages, big and bulky, yellow and white.
Using phone books. In the 1980s, phone books were essential tools for finding contact information. These hefty volumes contained extensive listings of individuals and businesses, making them invaluable for anyone needing a phone number. Flipping through the pages of a phone book was a routine task. Whether you were looking for a friend's number or trying to contact a local business, a phone book had it all. The white pages listed residential numbers, while the yellow pages were dedicated to businesses and services. And despite their weight and bulk, phone books were household staples. They sat by the phone, ready for whenever you needed to make a call. They were an indispensable part of daily life, long before the internet and smartphones had made such searches instantaneous.
Exercise and weight control. For your free copy, write Consumer Catalog, Pueblo.
Shopping from catalogs. In the 1980s, printed catalogs from companies like Sears were a popular way to shop from home. The thick and colorful catalogs were packed full of everything from clothing to appliances, and flipping through the pages, circling desired items, and making a wish list was a common pastime. The excitement of browsing these catalogs would be unmatched. Each turn of the page would reveal new products and possibilities. And once you decided your selections, you could then place an order by mail or by phone, patiently waiting for the purchases to arrive. Shopping from catalogs was a convenient and enjoyable experience, especially before the internet made online shopping possible. And these catalogs brought the store to your doorstep, offering a wide range of products in one place.
Strong, and I grew strong, and I learned how to get along.
Participating in aerobics classes. In the 1980s, aerobics classes became a fitness craze. Colorful spandex outfits, leg warmers, and energetic instructors were the hallmark of these classes. People flocked to gymnasiums and community centers to join aerobic sessions, inspired by the upbeat music and lively routines. Fitness videos gained popularity, with instructors such as Jane Fonda leading the way. These videos allowed people to work out from home, making fitness accessible to everyone, and the fun and vibrant atmosphere of aerobics made exercising both enjoyable and social. Over time, fitness trends have evolved, but the impact of aerobics on fitness culture remains significant, and it introduced the concept of group exercise and made working out a mainstream activity. Aerobics laid the foundation for many modern fitness trends, promoting health and well-being in a fun and engaging way. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for upcoming videos on more fun and fascinating topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.